Hello everyone and welcome back to the video series. This is part one for this next series that I'm doing just for you guys in the group. I put out a poll earlier today and you guys voted that stress and anxiety was the number one struggle right now, which I totally get. And if you recall from, I think the first video of the last video series that I put out was also on stress management. But I wanted to do something a little bit more different for you guys this time around and really focus about the anxiety part, which also stress comes along with that. So I'm going to dive deep about ways we can manage anxiety and why anxiety even occurs in the first place. And as you guys know, I take a lot of information from outside resources, from mental health researchers, other experts, and scientists in the community that are actually looking at this information. So I want to get bits and pieces of everything that I think is going to be the most relevant and give you that all in one video. So I have to give credit where credit is due, and I did a little bit of research on Olivia Reams, who is a mental health researcher at University of Cambridge. So the way she talks about anxiety, which I can definitely relate to, as sometimes it kind of is an out-of-body experience, and we kind of dissociate from ourselves when we experience anxiety and we experience stressful situations. Like we're almost not even in control. And we kind of just are going through the motions unconsciously, which, I find myself even doing on a day-to-day basis, whether it's when I'm having a fight with somebody or I'm trying to pick apart a bad situation or handling something that's giving me a lot of stress. Like I'm not thinking about it and I just let my emotions get the best of me. And I think a lot of you guys can relate to that because even some of you in the comments below this post had mentioned that, you're trying to get a grip on your emotions. It's a very frustrating situation trying to homeschool or virtual school and also work. And it's just becoming this really hectic process. So you're not really consciously doing the things that you want to do or wish you could do for your kids or even for yourself. So I totally get that. And that's exactly what anxiety is. But I think a bigger part of this is the fact that the way we cope or the way we handle our own anxiety often either increases our anxiety or it decreases our anxiety. So I like to think of it this way: the more we think about the bad things that are happening, the more we think about how much anxiety is, stressing us out or how much stress is stressing us out, the more we get. The more we think about the bad things that are happening and the more we focus on those things, the more you'll see it. And it's the exact opposite if you focus on the good things. If you're focusing on the positive things that are happening in your life, the more you'll get from it. If you just focus on those things, you'll just keep seeing those things happening. It's just the way our mind works. So it's almost like we have to reprogram ourselves. And I had to do the same kind of process. I always used to think about all of the bad things that were happening to me, especially when you're in a situation where, one bad thing happens and then it's like, the next bad thing happens. And then, oh my God, it's another thing that's happening. And you just kind of get stuck in this self-reflexive cycle where you're just constantly keep focusing on those bad things and just more bad things keep happening and it's just spiraling out of control. And once you start to focus on the good things, the happier you become, the more excited about life you get, the more confident you get in, the things that you're doing, the more good that you're seeing happening in your life. And it's a hard thing to do, but it's something that we have to do. It's something that's necessary. We have to reprogram that. I want to talk about 3 things that we can do to manage that stress, to handle that stress and the anxiety that comes along with it. And the first part about that is oftentimes we feel like we are lacking control, that we just have no control over our lives. And it's just, again, these bad things are happening and there's nothing we can do about it, right? And we oftentimes think that in order to do something or in order to get things done, because a lot of us seem to have or think that we don't have enough time, we kind of set our expectations way too high for ourselves. And then it prevents us from doing those things. Don't you often find yourself procrastinating? Probably I do. And you're just so caught up in the outcome or the result. And maybe you don't think you're equipped to handle this situation or your first result wasn't good enough. And you feel like you just have no control. So what we need to do is we need to take back control. We need to take back control of our lives. And we need to start doing things even though we know we'll fail, because it's okay to fail. The only way that we can get better at something, the only way we can reach our successes that we so want to reach is by failing. That's the only way we're going to learn from our mistakes. And oftentimes you have to get really uncomfortable to do that. As many of you know, I've talked about my story about going through that childhood anxiety disorder and not being able to speak, and look at where I am now. It's all about making ourselves more uncomfortable, making ourselves be willing to do bad on the first shot. If you look back at my first YouTube video, it was awful. Like, just absolutely awful. And I rewatched it actually like a couple weeks ago, and I was just, I couldn't watch the full thing because it was just that bad. But that's what we have to do. We just have to keep trying and take things day by day. And we just have to keep going into those situations knowing that it might turn out bad, knowing that this might be a bad day, but that's okay. We have to live through those bad days. We have to keep taking control even when we don't think that we have enough control. So by taking control and taking more risks and doing things the first time, even if it's bad, you end up being less anxious about doing things and less anxious about, going through the next day. If you had a tough day with homeschooling, you just have to go through the next day and then the next day and the next day, because it's going to get better. And you have to have that expectation that it's going to get better. And once you have that, once you're in that mindset, you'll become more excited about it. You'll become more excited about taking those risks, those small risks during the day, where if you're finding a new setup, or if you're rearranging the space, or if you're rearranging your time, redoing your schedule. Get into something that works for you and that works for your kids. Something that is going to make things more exciting, something that is going to make you more excited about life and, going through this new schedule, going through the motions of the days, because I can tell you this, it will get easier as long as you're not stuck in that mindset where like, ugh, this is the worst, everything is bad is happening. More bad things are just going to keep happening. Just focus on the positive. Focus on the small wins that happen each day, and you'll get more from them. So the second thing I wanted to talk about kind of goes hand in hand with that, and it's about forgiving yourself. I talked about this in a couple of my videos on my main channel, but forgiving ourselves is so important. And again, it's about having that mindset and that right mentality. We can't stop, beating ourselves up and pushing us down when we do have those bad days, and when the routine is not working, when you find that you're stressed out, and when you find that you don't have enough time in the day. You have to forgive yourself. Nobody is perfect, and so many people are going through the exact same thing that you are going through, and it's okay. It's okay if your kids aren't listening. It's okay if the grades are, not where that you want to be or where they want to be. It's okay if you guys are making mistakes on the daily. That this is a hard time, but it is also a temporary time. So we have to keep that in the back of our mind, and we have to keep forgiving ourselves. Even when you're stressed out and maybe you said something, or you let your emotions get the best of you, apologize and forgive yourself and move on. You have to keep pushing yourself to get in that mindset where you're doing the best you can. You have to be that support system for yourself, especially when there is a lack of support maybe around you. Even if you do have a good support system, you also have to support yourself, because the number one person that we listen to on a day-to-day basis is ourselves, and it's our own thoughts. That's what keeps driving us, or what holds us back from doing what we want to do. It's ourselves, always. So you have to forgive yourself, because no one else's forgiveness is going to be as important as your own. So keep that in the back of your mind. So the third thing I want to talk about is having a purpose. And I think this is probably the number one thing that we all have to think about, especially at a time like this. So I'm not talking about having a purpose like your dream or your life's goal, which is often important, and I've talked about that in other videos, but also getting to that mindset that you being here and you giving your best effort and you just showing up every day when it matters to someone else, aka your kids, that's a purpose. You have a purpose. And even on the worst days when your kids don't listen and you're stressed out and you're feeling like so guilty and you're feeling like you're just not enough, you still have a purpose. You are the parent, and that holds such a strong responsibility, but also an importance. Coming from a person who lost her father at such a young age, I know how important a parent or both parents can play. And I know what it's like to not have that person. So even on those days when you feel like giving up, or you feel like you're just not good enough, or you feel like nothing is going as it should, what matters is that you have a purpose. You are here for a reason. You are their parent for a reason, and you have to have that in the back of your mind. Even when they don't show it, and even when you feel like they don't care and they could be better off with someone else, that is not the case. And you have to be that person for yourself. You have to show forgiveness for yourself. You have to be that support system. And you have to get into that mindset of focusing on the positive things that are happening. Because all of these things, being there for yourself, focusing on the positives, and having that mindset that you have a purpose in this life, all of these things will help you get not rid of the stress, but it will help you decrease the stress and decrease the anxiety, because you just have to be there for yourself. You have to be positive and not keep getting stuck in this negative loop, because all those negative things are going to keep happening. And I know this video was super long, but focusing on those 3 things will really make all the difference. And you'll see these small changes that are happening in your life when you focus on the positives and you forgive yourself for those, stupid things that you do on the daily basis, or even for the big things. Forgive yourself in the past, forgive yourself for what happened 10 seconds ago. It doesn't matter as long as you forgive yourself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this short little video, and I hope you guys, as always, find some use out of it. And stay tuned for next week, because we're going to be talking about getting rid of that guilt, which I'm sure a lot of you may be feeling at this time. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching.